I think back at what is the of springtime, it was the reset button.
Yeah.
Yeah. You say rewind, I say reset. That's
Right.
Really
Reevaluate.
That's what
recharge. I'll dig it.
Yeah. Let's restart.
Yep.
And take 2.
Rewind.
Oh, that's a really good way to start the episode. Rewind.
Rewinding it. Oh, because we got them rees happening. What does that even mean? The rees of life.
I ask myself every single time we film and we shoot and we record this podcast.
You're like, why did I partner with this
No.
crazy woman?
How many times do people think, how nuts are they in real life?
Oh, quite.
I love it. We're pretty
End of answer.
Yeah, end of answer. Well, okay, so it is episode 30. I hope that Justin can insert just a...
And I want it to be like 37, like just like very robotic.
32. Yeah, something.
I want to say 35.
We haven't hit the topic of the RE dash words.
Yeah, that's not like a podcast topic that we've just not gotten around to, but it's time.
It's not search engine optimized either.
Sorry, Amy. I was talking to Amy this morning because so I own literally like 3 items of white clothing, including this brand new white cardi.
Oh.
Yeah. I didn't even put it on yet, and I literally got coffee on it somehow.
No.
And I immediately heard Amy's voice going, "This is why we can't have nice things." So, yeah, I got coffee.
For those that have listened to the show, we've never actually talked about Amy in
Girl
depth.
Dish.
Yeah. Amy's incredible. Amy started as my executive assistant during the pandemic. And comes to Siarza, like super green, actually not knowing anybody in Albuquerque because she moved in during the pandemic.
Chi-town.
And so we started really working very closely together. She helped me open up the physical office of Siarza.
Yeah.
She also then said, I'm actually dabbling in UX and UI. And I was like,
ooh, a dabbler.
We need to talk about this. And so to wrap up a really long story that I wish I could have more time to talk about how amazing Amy is. Amy's our web lead at Siarza. And we love Amy so much. But this week is Employee Appreciation Week. And one of the things I wrote about Amy that I wish I didn't get to write about Amy. What I wrote about her was her incredible project management and attention to detail is what I love about Amy, what I appreciate the most about her. But what I really wanted to also write on top of that was her dry humor and her character is fucking hilarious.
It's so good.
So deadpan. It's
good.
like, you're brilliant in so many.
And there's so many times when I know she's not saying a thing that I wish that she were saying. And I'm like, do it. I know you have some commentary. I know. If something is handed to Amy, I know it's getting done.
Oh, 100%. And when you said, this is why we can't have nice things, those are one of the many things in her repertoire.
It is.
Yeah.
And I just heard it immediately, and I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
This is why we can't have nice things.
So what is today's episode?
Well, and I was trying to dress in theme. It's springtime. Spring is upon us. We're talking rebirth, rejuvenation, revitalization, those re's that come around this time of year.
Rewinds.
Yes, because something I was thinking about as we were prepping for today's episode is back in the day on episode 1, season 2, we talked about resolutions, resolving resolutions. And one of the big ahas I had right before that is that I've been doing it wrong this whole time by trying to start things in winter, which is bonkers because we got that dormant energy. Yeah. And really spring is the time to, for me at least, where I'm noticing a boost in my energy. I'm noticing a natural motivation coming as I see everything around me start to come to life. Something in me is also like, yes, let us join the world in new ways. And rewinding, I think, is a great reword to add into the mix, where maybe some folks did add in their resolutions this year, or set goals, dreams, desires at the beginning of the year. Rewind,
vision boards.
Check them out. Do they still align? Is it still what you want? Now you've had a few months to give it a go. Maybe you gave up on them back in February. That's all right too. Check back in. Rewind.
So rewinding back to March of 2020, I think about this time, especially like March 15th. I think about this time when the world had paused right? And the world started to learn really about the impacts of COVID in a community.
And how desperate people are for toilet paper.
And desperate for toilet paper, desperate for milk, desperate for groceries. Like it was very eerie, right? Mm-hmm. And I think back about that because it's weird. I promise there's a positive story, a positive opportunity out of this. I always think about, or mentally in my head since 2020, March is actually the reset button for me.
Yeah.
Every year since then. And I say that because March then was, okay, we're gonna start in 2020. We're like, okay, we started the year, but we're just gonna reset ourselves for a little bit, just restart the year as 0.
Yeah.
Right? For us as a company, we had to reset and renegotiate
right
as much as possible because we had clients that said, we're canceling everything. We need to know how we're doing things. I don't think I ever talked about what happened during COVID.
Yeah. I think so.
In parts, in different parts, right? But it was a reset for all the clients. It was pivoting as the word, like that was the word of 2020.
Yeah.
But it was re-jumping the year where we had to even like redo our budget, redo our finances, negotiate everything completely differently and just be very forgiving to a lot of folks, especially during that time frame of 2020. So I think back about that, and I think back at what is the of springtime. It was the reset button.
Yeah.
You say rewind, I say reset. That's right.
Reevaluate.
That's what
recharge. Mm-hmm. I dig it.
Yeah.
So what do you do this time of year personally? Or as a business owner?
As a business owner, it's always high season. I was looking for a re-word out of this, but I'm like, re-stupiding myself, I guess.
Sure, you got to re-stupid every now and again. You got to re-up your stupid minimum, at least every quarter.
It gets really stupid around this time.
Really stupid. Nailed it. Break me off a piece of that.
Fancy feast.
Nailed it.
It is really stupid around this time. And I say this in a most positive, stupid way possible. Yeah. The clients that have sunsetted because the budgets have reset or they never got renegotiated from their end or the funding has fallen out.
Yeah.
January through March for us is just always like a very tumultuous time. And tumultuous is, it seems like, oh, well, that sounds really awful.
Yeah, I'm like, Justin, do you have a plan B?
Yeah.
Do you have a backup plan?
What is also really optimistic is that February and March, which we really see the impacts of it in March, is when we get new clients. Or we get clients coming in a way where they say, we're going to re-up our budget. Awesome. Or they say, I am new and I need your help tomorrow.
Right.
And we have one that's starting with us today. And so that's a perfect example of like, it's tumultuous in bad ways, but it's tumultuous in good ways, that all of a sudden we just go from 0 to 100, or it's really scary and like really cautiously optimistic than other days. So that's what typically March is. And that's always been since like day one, right? At Siarza is that while you try to be predictable, we always predict a swing.
Yeah. I was like, things are cyclical. We do follow nature a lot more than we might think. If we pay attention to the rhythms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Rhythms of Africa is my favorite card on Cards Against Humanity.
Yep.
Sure. Rhythms. Yeah. No. Okay. Sounds great. Yeah. So
are we doing like word association?
Yeah, might as well. So if there was a word or a phrase or a Cards Against Humanity card.
Oh my God.
That one.
I only can think of one and I can't say it on air.
Okay,
so
I can't say it on air. Okay. So if there was a phrase that describes this time of year for you as well, what would that be?
I think I have a rejuvenated hope. Like there's it's not, I don't go into deep depression anymore. I haven't in many years, which is really cool. I was at the doctor a couple weeks ago and they were like, oh, do you experience any depression? And I was like, no, like really like creepily excited because I was like, oh shit, like depression has always been part of my life for a long time. Like even as a kid, it's like, why are you so melancholy? There was just like always a little something there. And then when I got older, I would go into like really dark depression. And in my growth and healing and whatnot, and my like fixing of the chemical kerfuffle that is the internals of a
one of my favorite words.
Yeah, kerfuffle, such a good word. And so I'm like, oh, I don't go into that anymore, which is really cool. And so I like announced it at the doctor's office, and the nurse was like, oh, okay, that was too much. But she's like, might be manic depressant, actually. Anyway, so I don't do that so much in winter, but I definitely have lower energy. And I've come to just honor that, to let that be a meditative, more contemplative time. And I'm noticing, like, just this week, where things are blossoming, we got trees in bloom, and I find like I just have a newfound hope within myself as well. And it gives me a bolder space to dream from, where when I'm in winter, when I'm, kind of thinking, okay, what do I want the new year to be and whatnot, I kind of play it a little safer. It's a little more practical because I'm thinking, I don't have a lot of energy. So what do I really want to spend this on? Like, probably nothing.
Yeah.
And then as spring comes, I'm like, man, I got so much more energy, and I get to be outside more in nice weather and whatnot. And so I'm like, I come back to life in a new way, which allows me to dream bigger too.
My usual Monday night golf league at Top Golf happened last night with Cole, our favorite friend Cole.
Yeah.
And it was great because we all felt the same way. Like, hey, it's time to start golfing again. Oh, it's going to get a little cold this weekend. We're like, fuck it. It's time to go back outside.
Yeah.
And Justin and I, while we're working on a sponsorship for golf, looking for a golf sponsorship for this podcast, even though this podcast has nothing to do about golf, that's a perfect example of like how excited we all are about the fact that we get to go back outside again too.
Okay.
It's doing something that we love, right? Which is frolicking outside with clubs and golf balls. Yes,
love a good frolic.
Yeah, good.
I had someone tell me that once, and it was one of the weirdest but favorite compliments I've gotten. They're like, I could truly see us frolicking in a field together. and it was someone who like would not commonly say that, and I was like, yes. Yes, sign me up. I will frolic. I don't know. It came out of nowhere. And I was just like, she also told me one time, she was like, you just remind me.
Oh, thank God it was a she.
It was a she.
Okay.
Yeah. Dudes, you want to frolic too? Get your frolic on. We'll go frolicking. It's almost frolic season. She also told me when she was like, you just remind me of a grandpa. Like, you have grandpa energy. And I was like,
whoa.
I accept.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what that means. She's like, you just remind me of my grandpa.
She's manic depressive. No,
She was an interesting character, but I was like, all right, you want to frolic in a field with grandpa energy? Let's do it. I'll get my long cardigan out. Like,
you have amazing friends. You have very colorful friends. Okay,
I do attract some pretty amazing people, I will say.
That's incredible. So, what does the words what RE prefixed word, in your opinion, directly contributes to the success of an entrepreneur with a lot of programmatic success or a lot of financial success or a lot of life success?
Yes. Also, I'd like to suggest now to start this episode over and make it a drinking game that every time we say a word, you take a drink of water. Obviously, keep it safe, keep it hydrated. But I'm like, man, we're really using these words a lot.
A lot of people listen to us in the car. So
don't, girl.
All right, so
keep it in a regular water bottle. No, I'm just kidding. Don't drink in the car.
What's the prefix word?
For success, for business owners, for entrepreneurs, I'm going to go with relax. Relax. We push so hard. So many of us have this notion that we have to do it all ourselves, that we can do it all ourselves. One of the great things for spring, in my mind, is seeing that with no effort on our part, nature thrives. No matter what we do to it, which is a fucking lot, we're like real intent on just killing everything. But it doesn't. And even when things do die, they just I'm out in the bosque every week, and shit's just dead everywhere, and other stuff's just on it, just growing and eating it and whatnot. Nature doesn't need all of this, like, get up and crush the day type of energy that we try to put into things.
I do. I need that energy.
Maybe. Or do we put so much energy into having a perception of control so that we feel like we're doing something, when in actuality, if we set things up well and right, if we have some form of system, if we're honest with ourselves and our own cycles or our own energy, I think we actually can relax a lot more. That doesn't mean doing nothing. Nature's doing stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But it's not this frantic energy. It's not the rat race. Like, that's an old mentality that we're seeing people shift away from and find great success.
Yeah.
So my word would be relax.
Yeah.
Set yourself up for success. Get all your ducks in a row. Or as my friend's grandma used to say, your poop in a group. And then just
You're
let shit
nailing
thrive.
it on these crazy statements.
I got
that
weird
is
people in my life is what I'm learning.
No, it makes us go, okay, what did she just say? Like,
poop in a group.
I wish there was an analytics for the rewind button on Spotify or your favorite podcast channel. That would be really great to see. But great word, I would say for sure. I would say that an entrepreneur or business owner's word, re-prefixed word, would be reboot. I like the word reboot because there are times when...
I'm going to say because you're a Marvel fan?
Because I am very much a Marvel fan. The entertainment industry, we'll talk about the reboots here in a bit, right? And some are very unsuccessful. Sometimes you just got to let the originals go. But there's a common thread that I see, especially now that we're in year 10, where there are times where the team is still setting themselves up in a pathway of complacency. And I remember seeing this at an old agency, right? At an agency I used to work with, where we would be working on a campaign and the campaign would be very stale. Mm-hmm. And the client's like, okay, we're ready for something new and something different. Yeah. And we would say, okay. And then they would be very upset that they would lose the client. Well, I've seen this happen in an agency. I've seen this happen in nonprofits, that there's like even events, right? In events, there was always a time where the average length of an event is about 7 years. Mm. And that's what studies have shown. And people would start to see the financial drop off around year 7, year 8. And so sometimes people forget that a reboot on a plan, on a strategy, on an approach is actually a really good idea.
Yes.
Because it's not a complete pivot, right? It's like, for example, if you take a luncheon, right? The program for a fundraising luncheon's very simple. You start off with a good MC, you have good food, you break, you have a speech, you have entertainment, and then you have a call to action, and then you end the event. That's the playbook. But what people don't realize is, you can change up the layout of the room. You can change up the speaker that you have. You can change up the way that you ask for your call to action or your major donation. Sure. Or your major push, the objective. You can rethink the strategy of the event. It doesn't always have to be a luncheon. It can be a festival. It can be a mini expo. It can be something different. So you're not changing the mission and the vision. I always frown upon that. But what I do, unless the organization, it's the mission and vision is just not relevant to society anymore, or it's offensive to society, then you might want to think about changing it.
Want to refresh that?
Yeah, I want to refresh that for a little bit. So that's, part one. And then part two is, it just because you're refreshing something or rebooting something doesn't mean you're completely changing it. You don't always have to change it. You just always have to have the right mission and vision and the right call to action in mind, and then everything else around it can fold over. And I say that because, when people start to feel that complacency, it's like, oh, we're doing this over and over and over and over again. Yeah. Right? And I've seen a couple events in town. I've seen a couple of strategies and agencies in town, 20 years later, they're still doing the same shit.
Classics. All right.
Yeah. Somebody said, so a perfect example. So the conference that we keep talking about on the show, it is doing phenomenally well. I can't share all the details, but they rebooted and refreshed a couple of the things. People back then said, it feels like this is the classics, the classic hits. And yes, that might be true, that it might be like the classic hits of the conference. Yeah. That doesn't mean that there's new blood and new entertainment and new people that are coming in.
Yeah. So speaking of reboot and the classics, I got a text message from my sister today with a video that was advertising the return of Jinkos.
No.
They back, baby. They are back. And I was just like, yep, it was only a matter of time. Mind you, we're talking about this while I'm wearing bell bottoms. So, I remember being, a kid in the 90s and in high school and whatnot, and wearing bell bottoms and fringe leather vests and stuff that my mom would be like, what is happening? Because I was dressed like she dressed in the 70s, except I'm way taller. And now I'm seeing that flip back around with these folks in the fanny packs and all of the 90s stuff. So I was like,
dude, cargo pants are back.
I do love pockets. I have to say, it's so convenient. And when I worked in production, they don't make women's clothes, or they didn't, it's probably shifting, with pockets. Yeah. And so I always would have to buy men's pants so that I would have pockets. Because you gotta put all your stuff. Like, I have so much stuff for production. But I look sloppy all the time.
No, you don't.
No, I did not. Girl, not now.
I'm defending you.
When I worked in production, I would look sloppy because I'd be in men's clothing.
Yeah.
And so I do love pockets.
And I do love me a fanny pack for sure.
You know, I love a festival, like, tool belt. Like a utility belt. I'll wear them to festivals.
Like Tim the Toolman Taylor?
No.
Jace, like, if that's what we have to put on the merchandise list, we will.
That could be cool. No, they're like, they have like tons of pockets, but you just wear them around. And then you can like dance all day. I have a great roll up water bottle that can go in there. You got your chapstick, you got your sunscreen, and then you can just like hit the dance floor all day, all night, and it's hands free. But it's not a fanny pack, and it actually looks cool. If those could join society somehow, I would appreciate that.
I know. I need to actually, now you think about it, now I know what I need for the trip when we go to Las Vegas for our client, Justin and I's trip. I'm like,
a refinance on your house so that you can take
the
money with you.
No,
just kidding.
Pack.
Please don't do that.
Yeah. So if there was another word that you would describe spring,
yes,
in a way where if a business is going through its new phase, that awkward teenage phase, like we're not quite new, but we're not quite seasoned. What does the season of spring have to do with that? Like, what word would you best describe that portion in a customer's life? What we found, especially on Stories of Success and stuff, we have some phenomenal listeners, and the phenomenal listeners are majority business owners, right? And the business owners are always looking to us to, like, you know, somebody that can relate to them, somebody that they can laugh with, somebody they can, and we've heard this, somebody they can cry with. But there are a significant amount of listeners that we have that are in that awkward teenage phase that they say, I don't know where my business needs to go.
Yeah.
What type of word would you use, or what is the commonality behind the season of spring?
For that question in particular, I would say remind. Remind yourself on why you're doing what you're doing. Like, why'd you get into this business in the first place? A lot of entrepreneurs don't realize when they really love something, they're really passionate, they're like, I'm going to turn this into my business, and I'm going to this is going to be my thing. That really the vast majority of their time is not going to be spent on the thing that they love. It's like maybe 20% you actually get to do the thing you love, and the other 80% is doing admin, especially if you're a solopreneur, it's doing everything to run the business, and then sometimes you get to do the thing you love. And that's so tiring. And even as staff comes on, that's just, the crown is heavy, right? Like, then there's more things you have to do. So I would say when there's a retooling or any kind of reboot or refresh or reevaluation, remind yourself why you love this.
I would echo that word. I'm having kind of a mental brain fart on what reword is. I would rewind is very good. Rejuvenate. And more from the personal side. I think that time period, that awkward teenage business time period, where you've figured most things out, but you also say that, okay, I'm getting a little bit more confidence. It's typically burnout time, right?
Yeah.
You start to really ask yourself, like, am I really wanting to be here anymore? Or is it time for me to look at it in a way where I'm committed? There is no option B for my business. I'm stuck with it, so this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it well.
Yeah.
I think rejuvenating yourself in that critical time is a good time. So, like, I think about my mom, right? So they've now been in 2 years of the business. They're really starting to do a phenomenal job at the restaurant in the Philippines, and I was really proud of her that she took an impromptu trip back to the United States. She had to go back early just because of a really huge, important opportunity that I was very, very excited for her for. In fact, I was like, I want to go, But I was very proud of her because of the fact she actually took time to rejuvenate herself. She's still, in the hustle, in the grind, and I'm really proud of her for doing that. At the same time, like, I was really proud about the fact that she actually got to have some peace and quiet. Rejuvenating yourself in that critical time, in that 3 years, is a good thing, because it makes you take a step back and realize, like, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? And what do I need to do to be better?
Yeah. And what am I doing to celebrate
Yeah.
along the way?
Yeah.
Also, like, how am I recognizing those successes and having fun
Yeah.
with it? Yeah.
Let's go back in kind of our last phase of today's show. So let's go back to the spring concept, right? So
Yeah.
things are growing back.
Yep.
The world's starting to receive a little bit more sunshine. Less bitching and complaining about the cold.
Yes.
What can business owners take or accomplished leaders? Let's do the leaders, not quite the owners, right? But what can leaders learn from nature that we haven't talked about today? What you haven't mentioned, like what can leaders learn about nature that will help them forecast for the rest of the year?
I would say with regard to who they lead, everyone, I think, comes with certain things built in. Yes, we can hone our craft. We can gain new skills. Absolutely true. But there's pieces of us that just kind of are what we are. And I think if leaders can take the time to learn about that within those that they lead, or even learn ways to do that. There's so many different modalities on how to understand people better. I really love human design. It's very comprehensive in understanding why the humans do what they do. But whatever modality, so that then they can take what is naturally within people. You do this especially well, and shine the light on that so that it can grow and benefit not just the person, but the team and the company as well. Like nature, like you don't got to tell an acorn to become an oak. It's already got that in there.
That's incredible. That's an incredible phrase. Write that down. That's what I say. Write that down. Let me be your scribe. I would say that, especially as spring has sprung, don't forget that the weather is still very unpredictable. And I think that the good leaders are used to falling off their high horse. The good leaders are used to knowing that things are incredibly unpredictable and that what they're normally used to is that they just always get out of their comfort zone. Like, for example, we're starting to see record-breaking weather, right?
Yeah.
Like we're starting to see the hottest of the Aprils, the hottest of the Mays, the coldest of the Aprils, the coldest of the Mays. We're starting to see massive windstorms in Las Vegas, which is insane. We're starting to see tornadoes in places that are not typical. While spring has sprung, while we have our patterns, spring is always around this time. April showers bring May flowers. And then all of a sudden you just see like torrential heat in the desert. There's going to be times where it's like, I've actually seen snow in May.
Oh yeah.
Right.
We get a good Easter snow
once in a
while.
while.
On a regular.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So things don't go to plan. All of a sudden our garden gets thrown out the fucking window because of the fact there was a massive freeze or something like that.
You should put your garden in the window so it's warm inside.
Yeah. So as much as a leader, we try to protect our folks from the elements.
Yeah.
We just have to have room for pivoting, or room for failure, or room for things we're not going to plan. And I've seen a lot of folks just defeated. And myself included, right? People don't want to hear what I've seen. People want to hear about some of the bullshit that I've heard and some of the bullshit that you've experienced too, right? And people don't get to see enough of the fact that like I get knocked off of my high horse a lot. I have to eat a humble pie a lot. And I have to just sit back and just say, you know what? I'm disappointed in myself for what I did and the decisions that I made. Or, Kristelle, you've been in business now for 10 years. Why the fuck did you make that same decision again? You just got to be nice to yourself and just admit that, nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's predictable and nothing's perfect. So
I disagree with half of that statement. I think if things are always as they're meant to be, which I think they are, all things in perfect timing, then everything is perfect. It's just not flawless. But nothing is flawless. So why we have any kind of idea that we're supposed to be is beyond me. Like our mess is what makes each of us wonderfully unique in a lot of ways. And when we can keep that as just like a tidy little mess, we bring wonderful things to the world.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really great way to wrap up today's episode of Stories, Success, and Stuff. And I'm so grateful for you to be here today. And you too,
and Andy, she's like, don't forget about me.
Don't forget about me.
Never
Justin
can. You're breathing
so
so hard.
Thank you so much for a really phenomenal opportunity to talk about the things that we love, the stories that we have. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast channel, on YouTube, watch us on YouTube, or tune in and read the transcripts on Siarza.com. This is Jace. I'm Kristelle. And thanks again for another great episode of Stories, Success, and Stuff.